there are many stories like this, but all this comes from far before, when Albanians wrote their first constitution. And the first paragraph of our first constitution says, "The house of the Albanian belongs to God and the guest." But the meaning of the word guest in Albanian in that paragraph means not only the one you invite, but also the one that shows up and knocks at your door. And the knock at the door is an obligation of you towards God to open and to help. So when in June we were in a gathering among the NATO member countries, and the talking was about the withdrawal, I just mentioned the need to address also the issue of the traitors. The traitors, as our very bitter history of dictatorship told us, are them who, after the regime will install itself, will be seen like the collaborators of the enemy. And the traitors in this case were all the people of Afghanistan, women and men, that were there for us, that worked with us, that covered so many things in terms of services to the NATO countries, and also them who got the front line because they believed in what we were telling them, that we were there to make Afghanistan a different place. They believed it, and they came out and they stood for that. And after 20 years, we left. And of course, it was not up to me. And as I always say, being Prime Minister of Albania in the NATO is quite an easy job because you don't have to take the decisions. But still, it seemed to me very bizarre that nobody was thinking about these people. And then in August, just when things started to get rough, someone came to me in Albania and said, "Secretary Clinton needs your help." I said, "How comes?" This is something I would never dream of. And then he said, "No, I'm serious." And it was a he, by the way. And he told me about Vital Voice and all this thing. And I said, "Okay, let's do it." He said, "How?" I said, "Let's do it. Let's take this women." He said, "But do you want Secretary Clinton to call you?" I said, "No, let's do it. And then if she will remember about it, let her call me." You know, because it's very American, by the way, to be great in seducing you and then to say, "Who are you?" But it was not the case, by the way, and she called me. When all the women were saved and settled in Albania, she called me, and of course it was a big honor, because you have to know that if you are named Clinton in Albania, or among Albanians, this is something very special, because it's related to the liberation of half of our nation, Kosovo. And by the way, it's the only place on earth where you have people today, boys, named Clinton, but the first name, not the second. And there are even boys named Bill Clinton. First name, like Bill Clinton Rama. And all these boys that today are grown up, they were newborns after, thanks to President Clinton, First Lady, and the United States government at that time, this population was liberated from a regime that tried to clean them completely ethnically. So, bottom line is, we did it, and I think that as a NATO member country, we had to do it also, because we are a small country. We can't change the destiny of any war, and we go in every war by default if the United States decides. But if we are not there when it's up to save people, by not doing any heroic act like our old men and women did in the Second World War, why we have to be NATO members and for what we are worth in this world? And on the other hand, we were the Afghans 30 years ago when we had to escape a very brutal